Welcome to my channel. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. My name is John, and today I have a new anniversary review. It is the 25th anniversary of the Great Southern Trendkill by Pantera. So before I begin, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. So back in 1996, many bands were changing their style to fit the alternative metal scene. But Pantera, they went in the opposite direction, and they released what is probably their heaviest album to date. The album was released on May 7th, 1996, and it was a big hit. It reached number 4 on the Billboard 200. The band was known for their signature style of groove metal, and this album does introduce some elements of thrash metal and death metal. Has a lot of fast tempos, some screams. It also has some like softer parts, so some like acoustic guitars in it. A lot of the guitars are down tuned, and it kind of gave them like a heavier sound. And this is probably also their most like experimental album as well. So let me, I have the CD right here. So this is the Great Southern Trendkill, and I'll show it in more detail in a minute. Here's the back cover. So let me change views so we can look through the booklet. Okay, let's take a look at the CD booklet for Pantera's Great Southern Trendkill. I already took it out of the case just because of the glare. So there's the CD here. It's pretty cool, snake design. But let's take a look at the book. It's pretty cool rattlesnake on the cover. And inside we have some liner notes, talking a little about the band, where it's recorded, things like that. And these are some of the lyrics. That's some pretty cool black and white photography in the middle. The lyrics are handwritten. I think that's kind of gives the whole feel of the whole Suicide Note Part 1 and 2. So there's some really cool, nice photography here. There's some more lyrics, as you can see here. And some more. It's basically mostly lyrics. Again, the photography is like really eerie, because it's almost like from those like old horror movies from like the 1920s. And there's some more, and there's another band photo. They're actually, you see Rex Brown in the front, which is a little different than the other photos. And then here's the song list again with the snake. Okay, so I'm gonna go over the songs. The album's about like 53 minutes. And the first song is the Great Southern Trendkill, and the song just starts out with like a rah, like a scream. And if you put on this album and you have headphones, make sure you adjust the volume beforehand, because it just starts out right out the gate. It's very heavy riffs, some blast beat, and it's a very aggressive song. There's a lot of like tempo changes. It goes really fast. It kind of slows down at one point, and there's also a really cool breakdown. It shows off their like signature groove metal style. The second song is called War Nerve, and they slow down a bit in this one. The opening riff is really cool, has a really nice groove. It does go a little into thrash metal territory, has some heavy riffs. Dimebag, has these pretty cool like string bends that kind of creates a really cool sound on the guitar. Breakdown is really great, has Phil Anselmo's, his signature screams. There's some heavy riffs. It has some pretty cool like machine gun riffing in the song, and it's just another great one. The next song is called Drag the Waters, and this is just classic Pantera. Has their signature groove, has an amazing riff in the intro. The verse riff is slightly reminiscent of Walk from Vulgar Display of Power. Phil's vocals are very heavy, and you know there's some screams, and his vocals even sound like very like distorted in parts. There are some tempo changes, and it is a really interesting song. So, according to Dimebag Darrell, so I'm going to read this quote. So, it's about a lifetime of dealing with people that you can't tell what they're really coming at you for, or what their motives really are. You've got to drag the waters to get to the bottom and find out the truth. So the next song is called Tens, and it's a different type of song for Pantera. They slow it down a lot. The intro riff is slightly distorted, has an almost like a feedback driven sound. This is like one of the more like doomier tracks by Pantera. The song still retains its heaviness, has a really great like groove to it. Phil's vocals are very dark and they're very heavy. The song also has some a pretty cool, like a melodic breakdown, almost like something you would hear on like Master of Puppets. Dimebag gives one of his like best solos, but there's a better one which I'll talk about a little later. Next is 13 Steps to Nowhere. This is a great song. Starts out with a drum intro, really heavy, like doomy riff. They slow it down again for this one. The intro has amazing guitar work by Dimebag, and the riff is kind of like fairly simple, but this one really like makes the drums stand out. So this is the type of song you want to like focus on the drums. I really like how Vinnie Paul, you know, creates these like really like interesting beats. The song has some tempo changes, you know, it gets fast and slow, and has some pretty cool like guitar squeals, and you hear that throughout the album as well. Next is a two-part song, and probably the signature like song of the album. It's called the Suicide Note Part 1, and I'll talk about Part 2 in a second, but the first is an acoustic ballad. It's just very atmospheric, a lot of interesting sounds, almost like there's some sounds like they're playing like something like in reverse. The song uses 12-string acoustic guitars, has some keyboards. You know, the drum beat was used to like mimic a heartbeat. And an interesting note was this part of the song was not included on the original vinyl pressing of this album. I would be interested to hear if anybody has a copy of that vinyl, just wondering if you do. But it was included on a repress that was released in 2012. And another interesting note that this part of the song was nominated for a Grammy. After that is Suicide Note Part 2, and it's just the complete opposite, just sheer mayhem. It's fast, it's heavy, there's screams, and it's almost like Pantera is going into like extreme death metal with this one. The riffs are just so heavy, it's just a real stark contrast from the first part of the song. And the breakdowns, another one of those really like headbanging breakdowns, kind of like with the song Domination from Cowboys from Hell. And another, it just has this shredding solo, and Dimebag uses a whammy effects in this one. The next one is one of the lesser known songs called Living Through Me, Hell's Wrath. But it's very fast, it's heavy, has some thick riffs, has an amazing groove, and this is another song filled with Phil Anselmo's screams and some heavy galloping riffs. The song does slow down to a crawl about halfway through, and you think it's over, but you just hear some sounds. It's almost like an abandoned like industrial warehouse, and there's some screams and haunting voices, like almost like people are being tortured. It's kind of like very scary, but just from out of nowhere you hear one of Anselmo's screams again, and just takes off where it left off. It's probably like one of the scariest like breakdowns in any Pantera song on any album. Next is Floods, and this is probably one of their other signature songs. It's one of their longest songs at 7 minutes. It starts out with a haunting acoustic intro. Phil Anselmo's vocals, they're like very deep and haunting. I really like his vocal style in this one, and this is can be considered a power ballad, you know, compared to Cemetery Gates or This Love. Now, the lyrics to the song, it's about somebody asking God to flood the earth again, you know, back like he did in the book of Genesis, because the world we live in is filled with so much evil, so many people committing horrible acts, and they're asking God to just like start over again. The song has some really heavy, doomy riffs, and the thing that stands out on this track is the guitar solo, often considered one of the best solos in the entire Pantera discography. It's very melodic, and I've even read that one critic compared it to Brian May. So track number 10 is called Underground in America, and this is another underrated song, has some down-tuned guitars, and almost reminiscent of a stoner metal song, but it's still a very heavy song, has some crushing riffs. The song has some heavy drum beats, so the drums are really good in this one. And the song does end with some heavy feedback and goes into the next song called Reprise, Sandblasted Skin. And the song is fast and heavy, has that same beat. It just eventually finds a life of its own and has some really heavy riffs, some aggressive vocals. There's some crunchy, like palm muted riffs. It gets to a point after 3 minutes, you think it's over. Then there's just like 2 minutes of silence, but the song just picks up again and just closes out. So in conclusion, I do feel that this is a very underrated Pantera album. Sounds very different than many of the other albums, like from the 90s period. This is also one of the albums that's very overlooked. You know, a lot of fans go directly to Cowboys from Hell or Vulgar Display of Power as their go-to album, but the album is very underrated. It's heavy, it's different, and it has some of the slowest and fastest songs, and I do recommend revisiting the album when you get a chance. So that's it. So let me know how you feel about the album in the comment section. Coming up this weekend, I will be doing some new releases by Weezer, Artillery, and Sumo Psycho, so look out for those. Otherwise, check out the in-video links. I'll see you in the next one.